Easy E, how are we?
Sean E, not bad. It's Sunday once again.
Sunday Runday. The run's been done, tackling the hills, and I feel good. Except for the part to do with running, I've been triggered this week on Instagram. Well, the girlfriend sent me a reel on Instagram that has me completely triggered. I'm a sociopath, Eric. I'm a sociopath. I'll explain why.
Yeah. These are all, like when people are going like, oh, he has real narcissistic qualities, or I'm like, these words are too big. Like, don't tell me it's teal, tell me it's blue green. Like, like, it's just like, go on, Sean, please explain it to us.
Well, I'm going with the words being used, and actually by this definition of sociopath, you are too. So full disclosure.
Smack you in the jaw. I don't know what you called me. I don't even know what it means. But
look up the dictionary, find out what it is, and then throw the dictionary at me.
Hold on a minute.
Anyway,
go on, explain.
So Neve sent me a link. There's someone on Instagram. I didn't know the person before. She's got like a lot of followers. Stuff called Laura McReen. And as I say that, people are like, of course, this is this person. I don't know who she is, but anyway, they sent it to me, and she has this kind of series on her reels. One of them's called Strava Decoded. It's actually very funny. So she's got a couple of different things on what people name their Strava runs every time they run at something. So if you say, for example, she has like miles with Jess, and what that really means is that like Jess is slow, and that's why my time's not great and stuff, because I ran with Jess and she slowed me down. Or slow start into my progression miles 8 to 12 means like, check out my splits between 8 to 12. I was really, really fast there, but I just started slow. That's why my overall time is not that great, but these times I'm great. Or something is better than nothing, so don't give out that it's only like a half kilometer I've put up on Strava. And then the ones that relates to me and you is just morning run, as in like we just use Strava just to highlight our activities and don't really do a whole lot else on it. We don't really do much comments or kudos or anything like that. It's just morning run. That's it. Don't spend time doing anything else. And we're basically sociopaths.
Oh, well, the worst thing is we don't even call it morning run. We'll watch decide what it's called, because
I think that's it. And you know what? You kind of look at people's runs. Now, full disclosure, once again, I do use more of Instagram and stuff when I'm doing my different posts and on progress runs and different type of things, or stories and all the rest. Whereas people will put up their training and stuff on Strava, and you still looking up what sociopath is? You seem to be lost into the distance there.
No, I'm not. I'm listening to you, because as I'm reading and you're explaining, I'm like, how what is this? An antisocial personality disorder is what it's based off.
Yeah.
And we're that because Strava says Sean went for a morning run. Have a look if you want.
No, but like some people be very interactive and stuff. You don't use Strava much, except for you do put in your, like, if you're doing a turbo training, you do highlight that, or is that just Strava?
No, it's all automatically.
Yeah. But people use Strava like Instagram and Facebook.
Okay.
As in, like, they'll put in details. Like if they have a gym workout, you'll see what kind of exercise and stuff they do. So they use it a lot more, and they use it for accountability and stuff. Whereas we're just very antisocial. It just happen to sink in with the watch, and away you go.
And do you often break rules or laws, behave aggressively or impulsively, feel a little guilt for harm they cause others, use manipulation, deceit, and controlling behavior when you're going for your runs?
Oh, sometimes, yeah. Actually, dog comes after me. I'm like, so what? So you kick
here, right? I'm just.
You be angry on some runs now. Like I did be like the big headphones, the big cans to be on my head now, and I do look not the most like, this big bald head to me.
Like, this is where it's going. Like, so someone throws around the word. I wonder, did this person know? I don't even know who you said. Now I tried to slap you in the jaw. I'm threatening to slap the other person in the jaw as well. They're comparing the difference between sociopath and psychopath. So, like, this is like the first article I've come across. It's like, what is a sociopath? You know, okay, you go for the first medical kind of journal looking thing, and it's like the differences between a sociopath and a psychopath. I went for a run. I went for a fucking run.
Your rant is just proving her point, man.
No, but like, what is her point?
It's an Instagram reel. It's just like, but it's just decoding what different runs is. And she's right, because when we put up morning run, because it automatically puts it up, we don't put any effort, or we don't socialize much in Strava. You don't socialize. And if you do, I'm going to give out to you, because you never give me my kudos on my run.
I do go in and give people the likes, and I have a little look. Sure, I'll be watching Rachel doing all of her training when she's doing 2-a-days at the minute. So, like, but what makes me different is I dish out the likes. But the difference between Instagram and Strava, I'm not going, oh no, I only have 14 likes for my run. Maybe I should post that my middle section was really fast and I deserve more likes.
What people do, they highlight when they're doing a park run, they're going for PBs and stuff like that. And like I know when I do the Dublin Marathon every year, it just pops up morning run. I don't think I've renamed it.
No, I've never. Oh, maybe I did change this one to highlight that I ran really fast with 4 weeks training.
4 weeks training. And on that absolutely brilliant segue, we're going to hit the intro music this week's episode of the Any Given Runday podcast. Let's go.
No, Sean. No, I'm not.
What?
I'm reading more on this. You've sent me down a dark hole. And like, difficulty managing responsibilities, including showing up at work, handling tasks, or paying rent and bills. How do you become a sociopath with one of these things because you've gone for a run and didn't like someone's comment?
I really should have gave you a heads up on this on the intro topic.
So the only one
Right.
one that's looking in, right? The last one here, right? Ignoring social norms and laws, or breaking rules at school or work, overstepping social boundaries, stealing, stalking, and harassing others. So in fact, if this person even likes one of my runs now, I'm gonna say they're harassing me. Like, this is madness. No, I'm not. Listen, people should be putting a leash on Instagram. You shouldn't be allowed big words that you don't know the meaning for. This is absolutely madness. Anyway, right.
Well, we've all learned exactly what a sociopath is on this week's episode of the podcast.
I'm going to get a megaphone. I'm going to get a megaphone to Dublin Marathon and go, do you all know you're all sociopaths? Like, what the? Oh, my God.
How do you run Dublin Marathon, or else you're a sociopath?
Now, if they called me a psychopath because I did 10 marathons in 10 days, I'd probably be like, well, I'll look at the traits and I could probably link one or two, you know, like, but I don't know. People are using very big words here for the better gain. Anyway, right. I'm going to stop there before I unleash the darker side that can't be on a
think
podcast.
It's already been unleashed. I think you proved our point. But anyway, no, that's not yet. We'll move on. We had a perfect segue for the intro music. That would have went swimmingly, but you just had to keep going on that rant. So we finished with you talking about the 4-week training plan to the Dublin Marathon. And you got an idea floating in your head. You were kind of pushed towards an idea for June. Actually, one of us was to head down to Cork for the Cork City Marathon. And we're at a weird stage now where we kind of went heads and tails in this one on which one of us is going to do it. I wasn't so eager just because I'm doing the backyard ultra in the middle of May. So I was like, here, Eric, here's a great idea to start your Ironman training plan to build towards something. So
yeah.
You, instead of 4 weeks, you've got roughly 12 weeks to train for the Cork City Marathon. You say you're in.
Yeah.
You're 100% in. It's on the podcast.
It's a podcast, so I'm in.
So,
you're in. One of the listeners reached out and said, why don't you go do the Cork Marathon? And like, usually we're like, well, it's in Cork, so that's probably one of... No, I'm joking. It's something I never considered. And I suppose one thing I know about Cork, particularly from flying in and out of it, it is quite hilly. Right. So that was one thing that really scared me before I said, do you know what? Let's do this. Now, last night, we were actually both sober in a pub, which was quite hilarious.
On a Saturday night.
On a Saturday night, and we made decisions to sign up to stupid races. So
yes.
I don't know. As we were socializing, we signed up to races.
Well, hang on. We were both sober in the pub, drinking my waddies on a Saturday night in the corner of the pub as well. I think this whole morning run's got a lot of layers to it.
Surrounded by so many people dying to have conversation with us. So a couple of sociopaths went to a pub, right?
Right.
So I was on, we're going to have to get someone from Cork Marathon on. So I was on the Cork Marathon website. The Cork Marathon is an official 42.195 kilometer race. So I'll have to run 5 meters past the
oh, I think that's pretty much the marathon distance.
No, it is. Yeah, no, it is. It is the official. And serves as a Boston qualifier as well. Oh. It's overall, and this is where they get me, overall a fast and flat course. So yeah, and it is a route through the city, maximize the runner's experience. So no, they're advertising pretty well. The map is there, and yeah, I'm a bit nervous because they are mentioning because of the steep hills is somewhere in the middle of that paragraph about it being a flat and easy course. But yeah, so Cork Marathon, it's I'm a bit nervous. Like, a marathon to start the summer is a place I've never been in. I know when we originally started this, we were hoping to do the Madrid Marathon. So yeah, 12 weeks.
Roughly 12 weeks away now. Start of March, start of June.
Yeah,
should be roughly 12 weeks away.
Yeah, I better get my morning run on, I suppose. But it's so there's a bit of training to be done. How I balance this one's going to be a little bit different. To put a time on it, I don't know. Like Dublin, we can say I'm hoping for this. You know, like we've a bit of a grasp on it.
If you've miles in the legs to do a marathon in June, does that set you up well for the cycling and the swimming to concentrate more on towards? Because the overall big goal for you this year is the Ironman in Portugal in October. So
yeah,
if you miles in the legs without peaking too early, I suppose, and you've got those little, like we always talk about little goals towards a big goal. It's just insane that a little goal for you now is just to be able to complete a marathon, because you're going to have to do that in the day of the Ironman. So is it to get the miles of the legs now for this? And it's just good starting point.
I suppose, like, think of the whole psychology of it and what we've looked at, like, you know, like a marathon. We sat over a my wadi last night and went, right, whose turn is it?
Yeah.
You know, so like, and that is bizarre. Imagine doing that 10 years ago, John. Right? Whose turn is it to do the marathon? What?
5 years ago? No.
So, and then I'm like, oh, right, of 12 weeks. Oh, right. I suppose that's enough time. You know, like it is a bizarre concept, and not saying that we've mastered it or that we're experts or athletes. It's just the mentality of having completed now a couple of marathons. It changes the psyche of how it happens, and that is the one thing of seeing, achieving, and understanding of what it is you're getting into. For me, it's going to be a little bit of a challenge because I'm going to cycle and swim as much as I'm going to run. So when we did the Dublin Marathon, Sean, I think I did 5 runs a week and then just ran like half marathons and 30Ks on the weekends.
Right.
So with this one, it's going to be a slower build to longer runs. So my long runs will be built. They will be the 21K or whatever when I get to them, or we'll see how we go as we build up to over the 12 weeks. And my maximum might only be 25K. So we just kind of have to see. But definitely in terms of cardiovascular, the cycling, swimming will help. So the cycling, and they do say, and people argue different things, cycling will substitute running, but running won't substitute cycling.
Okay, so again,
and I felt that one. So cycling will substitute running, but running won't substitute cycling. So I've ran, and this is the theory behind it, or my own understanding of it is as well, that I've ran for a while now, so I know to run. The muscles are kind of there, like, and it's been proven. I did 4 weeks of training and did a Dublin marathon, so that's fine.
Yeah.
But in terms of what we talk about, the heart rate training, I'll get on a bike for 2 hours and put my heart rate in the 120 zone. My legs are turning over, the muscles are building from the cycling and stuff. Although it's not as intense as the running, and this is one thing where people get confused, like, yeah, but running is harder on it. Yeah, it is, absolutely. And that's why I'm cycling more, because cycling is easier on the body. Cycling is building muscles in the legs, it's building muscles, the hill climbs are building the glute, you know, like you're building,
you're taking away from the impact of the legs.
Exactly. So, and then that cardiovascular bonus of, so I can do a 2 hour cycle and go for a half-hour run. Can't go for a 2.5 hour run.
Yeah, you're gonna be in trouble, even with the lower heart rate. Like, it's just a lot in the legs.
Exactly.
And you have 2.5 hours, you're gonna really struggle.
So if you want to supplement your running, you have to cycle or swim. And the swimming is good because you've taken the weight out of it. You're elongating the muscles, you're stretching out, you know, when you're trying to stretch out your legs, you're working different things, and you're taking the pressure off all the things while still working other parts of the body. So what I like about the swimming then, so obviously nothing will supplement the swimming, but what I find is in the bike, in certain positions, the shoulders, especially when you're starting off, can get a little tight. Do you ever start back running and you get that feeling in your shoulder because you've been moving your arms and you're like, oh, it's kind of like a stitch or a cramp in the back of your shoulders. It's funny enough, even though you're not moving on the bike, for me, when I'm in certain positions on the bike, I get pain across the shoulders because my body's just not used to being in the position. And one thing I find with swimming, it really gets things moving, it builds muscle, and as you're kind of reaching out for catching the next stroke, like you're elongating muscles, you're moving muscles, you're keeping nice and stretched. So I actually think all three could act as a really good guide. And I think over the next 12 weeks, it'll be interesting to see how well I come along for a marathon, because I've never trained for a marathon through triathlon, if that makes sense. I've done a marathon, my 3:35 marathon, which had a very bad last 7 weeks in the build-up through injury. So like that's 3 weeks more than what I gave myself. So my last 7 weeks, I wasn't really able to train for the Dublin Marathon around the 3:35. And the 3:35 was on the back of a very good triathlon season where I did 5 Olympics in 5 weeks. So I'm interested, is what I'm kind of saying. It's definitely different. And then mentally, like, should I be doing a marathon? No, probably not. Probably not at that phase of training. Okay. But mentally, to go, can I just do a marathon as part of my training and then get on the bike on Monday? Maybe go for a little cycle around Cork. Now we're into a different thing of, I suppose, the animal. Like, what else can you do? Or, you know, like, yeah, you've done your run, but can you get in the pool and in the hotel the next morning and do a 2K? Because now you're proving to yourself the work's not done. So although we always say the marathon's only as good as the pint at the end of it, so it's something that I have to start thinking about now. As the day is not done. When you get out of the water after swimming 4 kilometers, probably going to take me an hour and 10 minutes. There's a good long cycle to come. We're going to be on the bike 4, 5, 6 hours, and then after that, you get off that, have your sandwich, and then you're like, right, I'm starting a marathon now. So it's all about building a mentality, and half of it is already there from the running side. So I have a funny feeling, although I will be tired, that the Ironman shuffle will come out and I will cross the finish line at that point once it gets to the running. To be honest, once I get out of the water alive, I'm fairly confident I will cross the finish line, because nothing really, the cycle, anything else I can grip through, but the water is a different animal. So, but yeah, so long story, but into like the thought process, how I'm going to train, what I think will supplement different things, how I think running a marathon in the middle of a training plan is going to work because of the bike, and that's pretty much the general plan for the next 12 weeks, and it will start tomorrow.
Unreal, brilliant, fair play to you. I mean, it makes sense because you haven't done too much running the last couple of months. That, like, that bike, as you were saying, is a nice, it's almost a sneaky way of building up your heart rate training without putting that extra impact. Because if you were to go out tomorrow and just go, right, next week your running mileage just jacked up to like 50, 60, 70K, after doing not a whole hell of a lot, it's like, well, that's when injury could happen. That could set you back another 3, 4, 5 weeks because it's just that impact, that pounding. Whereas you can pull back a little bit of the mileage to what you'd normally do 12 weeks out for marathon, but now you start adding the cycling in more. And not only is it helping limit the impact in your legs, it's also working towards the goal of getting used to being on the bike for building up towards the Ironman. But I never heard that kind of phrase put that before, that cycling and running, the one kind of helps the other doesn't help that way. Just the way you phrased it there was pretty cool.
Yeah, and like if you think of it logically, like anyone who has done a marathon, think about getting on a bike then, like it's in the next day going on a cycling session, but you would do a 4-hour cycle and then be eligible to go and get a 30, 40, 50-minute run in, like it is one thing
Once got through that jelly leg thing to start.
yeah, you get through your jelly
we get
legs
used to it.
It'll be a bit of a shuffle and stuff, but you're engaging different muscles and stuff. But once you tire out the running muscles, like when I did Mizzen to Malin cycle, I had, and we've mentioned it before, I had a fantastic idea to go and do a half marathon in Dingle without any training the day before. So it was interesting. The marathon was a struggle through 18K. Knees were getting sore. I was like, oh no, this is not good. So a 2-hour half marathon, and I was smashed after it. I was absolutely wrecked. Legs felt worse than they did when I did the Dublin marathon after the half marathon because there was no training. I just showed up, got on a bus or drove back to Dublin, then got on a bus from Dublin back down to Mizzen Head the next morning, to then be on a bike at 7 o'clock the following morning to start cycling over the Cork and Kerry Mountains. Needless to say, I had a very, very, very bad day. So, but as I got better through the week, I got stronger. All that stuff we've talked about before. But had I done a 2-hour cycle on Saturday, I probably would have been in peak condition to go do the cycle that was on, because I had been cycling in the weeks in the build up to this. I was cycling in and out to work, which had a total time of 1 hour and 45 every day, and then I was able to go for a run and work. Like there was certain elements, but like the half marathon in Dingle, which has good climbs in it, like just with no training, did not help my cycling. Definitely not, yeah. The reason I could run a half marathon with no training was because I had been cycling. So had I done the odd run here or there, probably would have been a bit better. But yeah, so it's just food for thought for anyone who is. A lot of people are like, oh, another sidebar again. Seeing how we're talking about the topic of supplementing, it is, I wouldn't do a marathon because I'll wreck my knees and my hips, and when I'm older, and I've heard that a few times, like, would you not be worried about your hips and knees when you're older? And I'm like, yeah, ish. Like I try to protect myself by listening to the body, and when things are sore, I'm like, okay, that's enough of that. Or I used to, I definitely did not, but I'm also of the opinion that that's kind of like worrying about whether it's going to rain or not in 2 months' time on the Tuesday. Yeah. Like you can do so much, and we've so much information and science. And then I think back to the guy, there is a lady and a man, their names escape me, Sean. I can't remember their names, but I think they're doing their 40th Dublin Marathon on the 40th year. And they have done so many marathons each year, and they're in their 70s now. And I'm kind of like, I wonder, were they worried about their knees and their hips when they started doing the first marathon? Like it's there's an element. Yeah, like and that's what I'm worrying about. But then this is me thinking of the alternative. I start doing more cycling and then less on the road, and then like there's little tweaks I can do for longevity, and that is one of the things that I have found for me. So rather than doing 6 runs a week, maybe do 4 and keep the rest on the bike, so there's a little bit of longevity in the swimming. So the overall fitness is there, core strength is there, you're working different parts of the body at all the time, you're keeping yourself moving. So it is something for those who are considering, I can't do a marathon because I'm afraid it's going to do this and this. You can supplement running with other exercise. You can, and you've proved it through the strength training as well. You can get things done through strength training and achieve amazing things. That doesn't have to be run all the time, unless you're trying to. But even Rachel on the last episode she was on was talking about how she did barely any running coming up to winning the half Ironman, you know, because running was in there, but how much the cycling had supplemented the runs, you know. So it is food for thought. It is food for thought. And maybe we can look into a few things a little deeper. I'll look for a study or two onto it. But from just using this, and this is one thing, the study is me. the study is all the mistakes I have made. And I know that I shouldn't have done that marathon in 4 weeks training if I was just going to do a marathon. It was absolute stupidity. But given I had done a summer of heavy cycling, I was like, the heart is there.
That way too. Yeah.
So once I got 4 weeks of the body going, oh yeah, this is running again, the heart was already there, and the muscles and all kind of just got away with it, and I made it, and I didn't feel a wall until 38.5 kilometers, which was a great place to feel it. But and that's it, and that's the only science I have really to it. But it is something to consider for others who are looking to diversify training and who may just be bored of running as well, because it is another thing that, like 6 days a week, 7 days a week, sometimes 2 a days. And I'm just like, I kind of like that I can break it up with a cycle and a swim, and I will be getting into 2 a day trainings. So there'll be a cycle in the morning, and a swim in the evening, and a run in the afternoon some days with a cycle in the morning, you know, like, so it's it is an interesting way. It keeps it interesting. It is more taxing. Time is not your friend. It is difficult. You need a great support network around you who are willing to watch you go off and do a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hour cycle, you know. So that's where the sociopath comes in, because you're like, it's gone my responsibilities, I'm going to the mountains. But it's
even when you talk about 2 days, and you know, even your 4 week training leading up to marathon, it's like, Jesus, you must have obviously fit a lot in, but every single workout wasn't an absolute crushing workout. Like, you always leave that little bit of tank. Same strength training. Not every session has to be every exercise set and rep goes to failure, because that's when the longevity comes into it. Like, if you're crushing yourself in every single workout and every single run and every single cycle, you're going absolute flat out as much as you can, you're gonna burn out. That's when injuries start coming. But if you could slowly build it and just get that little bit better, that little bit of progression each and every time. It's like, if I'm doing a 2 day, I've got a couple of 2 day runs in this week because I'm building up my own challenge, and it's keeping it slow. Like, I'm going like, there's a bit of an incline in treadmill, but I'm going ridiculously slow. So afterwards, instead of feeling like I'm crushed and like I feel good, I'm going for an hour or so on the treadmill, I feel like, okay, the body feels all right here. I'm not too bad. If it starts to feel real bad, like yesterday before I went out, it started to feel pretty bad. I was like, right, I'm stopping now. I'm pulling out. But I know I'm going to run on Sunday, so I'll see how it is for a little bit and start building from there. And then just you're constantly thinking, how you feeling? I'm feeling all right now. Okay, I made a push a little bit further. And some of those runs, you may get a little bit further some days. Other days, if you've had like lack of sleep, stress, whatever, you might be feeling those pains and niggles a little bit more. It's like, okay, in those days, there's times where you have to push, and there's times where you also have to pull back. And I suppose for me, that's where longevity comes into it. But if you're talking about, hey, you shouldn't be running because, your knees going to be banged up, it's like, yeah, that person's knees are 100% healthy. It's just what you're reading about such and such who did silly amount of miles or crushed themselves in the gym. Like, everyone is different. Like, if you've got knee problems at the moment, maybe running is not the best option, hop on the bike. But if you've no knee problems right now, there's not many studies to say that running is a direct result of the pounding of the knees. But obviously, too much of anything can lead down towards that.
Yeah, and this is where I suppose, like, we talk about David Goggins. We love David Goggins. Like, we love that attitude, that animalistic, like, I don't care what's going to happen to me, I'm going to do it no matter what. That's where me and him are slightly different, and call it what you want, call it softer and stuff. But my mentality when it comes to doing things like this, and it's a very simple one, is you need to be able to train tomorrow. So if something comes up today, think about it. Will this stop me training tomorrow if I keep going? Possibly. Stop. Recover, stretch. And then it's, from that point, it's, what can I do that enables me to train tomorrow? foam roll, massage gun, hot bath, cold shower, hot bath, cold shower, might go to the jacuzzi in the pool. I need to start eating this, this, and this. There's anti-inflammatories and this, this, this. So I'm going to do this. Then you wake up the next day and it's like, right, bike.
I feel good.
And then it's like, but the what can I do training tomorrow is you might say, oh, my foot's actually a bit sore, keeps cramping, or I feel like there's something not right. Okay, the training I'm going to do tomorrow is a swim, cycle. We're going to do that for the next week and let that recover. And then we're probably going to add in some resistance work, be it weights or bands or some challenge in yoga, whatever it is going to be. But again, the aim is, what can I do to keep training every day? Because in the end, like a week worth of running, as long as you can cycle, a swim, or even a couple of weights, as long as you are using the body, you're not going to lose the fitness. You're really not going to use the fitness. And even a yoga session, I challenge everyone. This can be a weekly challenge. I follow along. I follow along yoga with Adrian.
Okay.
And I will join in every now and again, and I haven't been great at it this year, but I've done 2 sessions this year, which isn't a lot. It's 1 a month, but she has a great one, like yoga, flow, and core. But try and follow along one of her 15 minutes, and I think it was for hamstrings and lower back. She has loads of videos, fantastic.
Was this just on Instagram, like a reel or something? Is it
YouTube?
Oh, YouTube. Sorry.
YouTube, yoga with Adrian. And I was doing her program, and I mean, the sweat that was coming out of me from trying to hold a hamstring stretch. So you do not have to be absolutely like max. And as we said, you don't have to be trying to do a 4-minute kilometer just to feel like you've done the workout.
Yeah.
You don't have to put yourself in that situation. Like stretching, which is something we both hold our hands up and say we're really not great at, but we're getting better at. We think about it, which is a start. And I do 2 yoga sessions a year, and I think I'm great. But you can be humbled by tasks that you think is mundane, like, oh, stretching. Cool, do a 20-minute yoga session and then come back and say easy peasy, or let us know how you really feel. And then do that for a week and then go, oh my God, my flexibility is improving. And then you're starting to see progress. And then all of a sudden the pain you had in your knee is probably not as bad, because you probably had tightness in the hips, hip flexors, quads, hamstrings that you didn't really know about. So it's, and it comes back to that same methodology of what can I do to train today? If it's sore today, what can I do from now to train tomorrow? You know, and it's all about, how do I train tomorrow? How do I get training tomorrow? And eventually that consistency leads to good races. The races are just another training day that ends in a few beers, and that is essentially what they are. Like, so it's
100%.
It's a different way of looking at it. And we've talked about 80-20 rules, and this, it's just another version of that. That is it.
Now, what this isn't what is like, oh, I felt a small pain in my hip when I ran and took it 1 step. It's like, oh, I better not run tomorrow. It's having that honest conversation as well. Like, maybe I'm all right, maybe I'm not. But then you have to like do your couple of kilometer run. Sometimes you go for 1 kilometer, like, I feel stiff, sore, it's not happening today. But then 2 or 3, you start to warm up and you feel good. Whereas sometimes if you've had proper nagging pain, I suppose everyone's got a different scale of pain. Like, you got to know where it's at. Like, it's pretty bad. Okay, today I'm gonna be smart myself, or like there's always gonna be little niggles throughout a training plan. Like, over your next 12 weeks, you're doing your marathon for Cork. Like, you're gonna have some days we got small little niggles here and there, where it's like, right, I know I've got little niggles. I'm gonna try and run it out. I'm gonna try and cycle it out, see how I feel. And if this starts to get a lot worse, then I'm gonna be smart and start doing my yoga and stuff instead. But if this is like, okay, I just needed to warm up and feel good, because there's some mornings you wake up out of bed and you don't feel 100%. You're like, oh, I don't know about today. You just have to be like, no, this has to be done as well. So there's a balancing act between looking for, we're not just saying this is looking for the easy way. Okay, I can't run because, I felt a small bit in my ankle. Let's go for a swim or something instead. Whereas some days it's like, it's up and down, but you need to be honest with yourself on how painful it really is that day as well. We see some people come in and go, oh, I'm real stiff. So like, okay, you're a bit dommed up. Let's see how after a warm up you feel. And after warm up, you feel good? Yes. Okay, let's keep going. No. Okay, let's pull back. Maybe we try a couple of different exercises and stuff today.
And that's where experience comes into it. And that's where giving it a go, because for me, like years ago, back when I tried to pick things up and put things down a few times, the next day I'd be like, oh, I'm wrecked and I can't move, and that was it. I was like, oh, this is terrible. Now when I pick things up, put things down, the DOMs will come on, and the next day I'm like, right, 3K jog. It's the only way it's gonna fix this.
Yeah,
Do you know, like, that's exposure, that's experience, and that's a little bit of willingness, know-how, and it doesn't even have to be a run. It could be go for a power walk, and that DOMS will slowly ease off. The blood will start going to the area. The body's fantastic. The body will figure it out, because the body is designed for you to run away from really scary things, no matter what state you're in. So, and that is exactly what it's there for. So it's like our whole nervous system is built around that. Something bad is about to happen. I don't care how you feel, but we need to move now.
Always in danger.
Yeah, and that's one thing to recognize, that you can work through different things. And like that, I'm on a run, I feel a niggle. Right, we have this thing about I can't stop when I'm on a run, or because the sociopaths are looking at the Strava going, well, your elapsed time was 4 hours, but you only ran for it. So you,
I like being in full circle on this, by the way.
to keep it relevant. I have issues. So so the ability to go, oh, well, I'm 1.7k in. We're just going to stop now and stretch for 3.5 minutes, and then I'm going to go again. I'm probably going to turn around and head home and call it 5k rather than a 7 or a 10. But have the stretch out the areas that could be above. So if it's a knee, everything above it, the hip flexors, the quads, hamstrings, get into your lower back, maybe get on the ground, throw the leg this way, that way, loosen things up, get up, and then go, right, let's run again. And like, oh, that actually feels a bit better.
Yeah.
Or after another 600 meters, you might be going, nah, I've given it a good stretch there now, and it's back and getting progressively worse. So good thing I'm heading home. Do you know what I mean? You've set yourself up to not be right. That's it. I'm quitting. I'm done. It's an assessment. It is like you are assessing yourself with a realistic output. Tiredness, and sometimes you wake up and just go, nah, I'm done.
Yeah.
And you're like, I'm just gonna. I'll see if I can get a run in later, but no, it's not happening this morning. And you know what? You're probably best off. Sometimes you are probably best off just saying it's just not in me today. This morning, like the 706 a.m. and you're like, oh, do you know what? I'm gonna take the extra 2 hours and I'll try to get a run in at lunchtime. Like that's just being realistic, and fatigue and mental fatigue and everything else. So it's trying to manage. You are a project. Like when you take on any of these things, you are a project, and you have to manage the project. And sometimes you have to change the plan, or you have to kind of tweak things and assess things, and then say, right, well, we still need to get to build to level 9 by day 7. So what can we do to do that? Like, and that's essentially what it is. And yeah, it's interesting. You learn a lot about yourself, and we've 100%. I don't know how many 100 episodes to prove all the crap we've learned over the last couple of years. But
we're near 150 episodes of this, believe it or not. So that's pretty cool. But the plan's always wrote in pencil. Like, there's always going to be changes over your next 12 weeks now towards Cork. Like, no matter how you plan everything else, and every contingency and every kind of going away thing and all the rest, things change, and they always do, and it's adapting to that change, and it's making those mistakes. And Lord knows we've made a lot of mistakes in the podcast, and we've talked about over the last 150 odd episodes nearly. I'm sure we're definitely going to do that in the future. But before we wrap up the podcast, you're a sociopath.
Well, I tell you what, this psychopath's going to hunt down whoever said that.
We'll put that link of the Instagram thing in the show notes. We'll also put in the link for the YouTube. We'll try and find that video that you're talking about, the hamstrings, and throw that in.
Oh, yoga with Adrian.
Yeah, which, if you send us on or send on our producers the link of the hamstring workout, and so people try the 15-minute workout, and then they can comment on the Instagram page on whether you're full of it, or actually no, that was a hell of a workout. That's pretty tough, and I felt that in the hammies.
Yeah, well, look, anyone who is, then they're just different animal. They need to pick a more progressed session. But I'm telling you, when you'd be like, right, we're gonna take the rest pose, and you're like, and then at that point, you'll imagine me going, "Welcome to the party, pal."
And on that bombshell, that is it for myself and Eric on this week's episode of the Endless Runday podcast. Take care.
Bye.